morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are in the world. Welcome to our webinar concerning the transition from MDD to MDR. I will be your presenter for today. I'm the Global Medical Device Certification Manager for SGS Belgium, notified body 6039. My name is Virginie Silore. I did work for SGS for 5 years now, after 15 years of experience in the medical device industry in Europe, and for multiple types of products from class 1 to class 3 containing drugs. You will have the possibility to put your question in the chat box on the side of your screen. I will try to answer them in the last 15 minutes of webinar. And if I don't have time to answer all of your questions, then we will gather all of that and provide you the answers at the end. So just a short introduction on SGS that you may know. We are the world leader on providing support for device testing and verification services. We are more than 95,000 employees over the world, with more than 2,600 offices and working with 11 global industry. SGS has been founded in France and is now based in Switzerland for more than 140 years of business. So we are providing solutions for field of activity in certification, but as well in training, in customized audit, in specific work on supply chain for transparency, but as well providing technical consultancy in all fields outside of the one of medical device, as we are supposed not to be delivering consultancy and certification at the same level. So outside of medical device, we have services who can help you for technical consultancy. It could be on validation or even on development of your supply chain maintenance and improvement, but not in the field of medical device. So in SGS, we are providing experts locally, but these experts can be assured of getting an international support from all their colleagues in SGS. So you have a local services with a worldwide expertise level, and so ensuring a great quality of services. So today our agenda will be focusing on the transition on MDR. I will shortly introduce some big topics on MDR and focusing on the SGS way of working for MDR, and then effectively start discussing the transition modality and timeline, and see how you can work in terms of transition as a manufacturer to meet a regulatory strategy. So as you all know, MDR has been initiated by European Commission in the late year 2000, to be initially released in 2017, entering into force in 2021, and for IVDR, which is the equivalent for in vitro diagnostic, will be in 2022. And by 2024, MDD and IEMDD will be fully void. That means no certificate will be valid anymore under this directive, which is the case now of your certificate, which are still valid if you are continuing maintenance of surveillance activity with your notified body. So this regulation has been placed very quickly on the market for European regulation, and the transition line are very short. And because of COVID as well, it has been even reduced, because as you know, the initial end of transition phase was 2020, but has been moved in 2021. But the last timeline of 2024 is remaining. So this is really important to keep that in mind, that the fact that COVID has delayed of 1 year the full application of MDR will have effectively reduced the transition line for you as a manufacturer. So what is important, and I'll probably, you know that already, but just as a reminder, the main key change associated with MDR is a bigger scope. So this MDR is covering as well custom-made device, but as well some device which are having non-medical purpose, like aesthetic purpose from laser or for brain stimulation, by example, which are listed in the Annex 16 of the MDR. This MDR goes as well with an improvement of traceability thanks to identification with basic UDI and UDI in line with IMDRF. This is implicate as well a better traceability, but as well less counterfacting normally. This MDR induces as well a more rigorous post-market oversight from the manufacturer, but as well from notified body and competent authority. And the MDR applies that manufacturer, but as well distributors are having an identified person which will be responsible for regulatory compliance. And this person needs to be nominated, qualified for this task and duties. With MDR as well, you know that classification rule has changed and lots of products have been reclassified, going up, not going down, unfortunately. So you really need to take this reclassification into consideration to be sure that your device is not concerned by an up classification. As well, making the assessment of products through MDR, we will need to see more clinical data, being sure that these clinical data are really applicable to your device and will demonstrate the full safety and performance. And the clinical investigation are still requests for class 3 and implantable device. So this is really important to take this element into consideration. If your clinical data are not supporting the performance and safety of your device, you really need to focus on this point. And because, of course, that's more, the regulation is requesting more evidence, but the assessment which is required by the notified body and will be as well supervised by competent authority through European Commission expertise panel will be more deeper as well. So that's really important to consider the clinical data in its own to be sure that you will be able to support the safety and performance of your product thanks to all the clinical data you have gathered in the past, but as well that you can gather through a PMCF plan, by example. And the last but not least, this is really important to consider that it's not because your device has been MDD certified that it will be MDR certified. MDR is a new regulation. It's anyway a regulation. It's not a directive, so there is no local application of it. So it's a full European regulation. So we start from scratch considering your device as if it was never on the market before, except for utilization of clinical data, of course. So that's really important. And unfortunately, this is a point on which the Commission will not come back. They will not consider that because you have an MDD certificate, you will get an MDR1 easily. Again, on classification level, I will say this is really important that you consider all the rules which are now available in the Annex 8 of the regulation, because this is now defining more or less, say, 7 levels of classification. Even if we still have class 1, class 2, and class 3, we still have class 1 with sterile measuring function, but now as well reusable device. So this is part of the new element which are associated with the MDR. We have the normal class 2A device and class 2B device, but as well there is now a distinction which is made with class 2B implantable device and as well class 2B active device which are intended to administer medicines according to Rule 12 of the regulation. And as well for class 3, there is a normal class 3, a class 3 implantable, but as well all the class 3 we will request specific scrutiny like the one containing medicinal device or even animal or human tissue origin material. So at the end, you get 7 different levels of classification and 7 different approach that will be taken by notified body in terms of depth of assessment, in terms of sampling, and in terms of depth of clinical oversight of this product. So starting with this is really crucial if you don't want to miss some part of your project. Sorry. So again, for classifying your product, that's really important that you consider first the special rule, and then that you get as well consideration for, let's say, the generic rule about active device and software for non-implantable, for non-active device, and any other rules, and define the one which is leading you to the most important class, or the higher class shall be the one you select. Even if there is 2 applicable rules, you need to select the one which is bringing you to the higher class. You can be helped as well by this with the MDCG 2020/24, which has been released by the Commission about classification. So don't hesitate to use this guidance as well. So by us, we are using a small diagram to be sure that we have considered all the elements. So we first looked as a notified bodies at the device you are proposing is a medical device, fulfilling the definition of the medical device. Then we looked if there is any special rules which are applicable. And if there is no special rules applicable, then we go to the normal way. Is the device a non-invasive device? Is it invasive? Is it active, non-active? And then based on the characteristic of the device, we are determining which rules are applicable. And if as well, if there is multiple rules which are applicable, then we retain always the highest class possible. And that's the way you shall proceed as well. And if there is any discrepancy in between your judgment as a manufacturer and ours as a notified body, you always have the possibility to request the position of your competent authority. And if there are still this distinction in between their classification, your classification, and ours, we need to go up to our own competent authority based in Belgium. And if at the end they don't find any agreement, this will go through a different procedure which has been established by the Commission, which is the Helsinki one, to be sure that we will get an harmonized approach all over Europe to classify this type of device. So just as well as a short comparison, what was previously done under Annex 12, excluding Section 4 of the MDD, will be more or less equivalent to the Annex 9 of Section Chapter 1 from the MDR. Annex 2, Section 4 is the equivalent of the Annex 9, Chapter 2, or Section 4 and 5. And what was in the Annex 5 is now covered in the Annex 11, Part A. And for SGS, that's the only 3 conformity, SGS Belgium, sorry, that's the only 3 conformity routes that we are certified, we are designated for. That means Annex 9, fully Annex 9, and Annex 11 Part A. For Annex 11 Part B or Annex 10, we will not be in a position to accept your application, sorry. Short reminder that's more for you to keep in mind when you will get the presentation. There is different conformity assessment for different class of device, so that will all be associated, except for class 1 device, to a QMS part, but as well a review of the technical documentation, including verification of conformity with general safety and performance requirements. So for class 1 device, which are non-sterile, non-reusable, or don't have any measuring function, notified body are out of the field. But for any other one that you will need a notified body, even for implantable class 3 custom-made device, where the notified body will only assess your quality management. For any other custom-made device, notified body will not be involved, but for class 3 implantable custom-made device, you need a notified body to assess the functioning of your QMS. Continuing on general information, again, coming back on clinical evaluation, that's really critical that you consider the clinical data you have on your own device. You know that equivalence is not acceptable anymore for class 3 device, neither for class 2B implantable device. The Commission came back a little bit on the fact that for class 2A and lower class 2B, I would say equivalence still need to be acceptable, but please be sure that you have sufficient clinical data to support your device safety and performance. There is multiple MDCG guidance which has been released on what means sufficient clinical data, what are the clinical evidence which are required, especially for legacy device. So please read this document through and be sure that you have enough data to present your notified body during the technical documentation assessment. As well, you will need to have a person responsible for regulatory compliance. This person, as said, need to be qualified. She needs to be competent to fulfill this requirement. And as an evidence, she needs to have been trained on the medical device regulation. So that's really important that you have these people in-house. You may have someone which is taking care of this role as an external consultant, but you need to be available, let's say, on a permanent basis for the company. You will find all the requirements in terms of quality management system for manufacturer as well as authorized representative in the Article 10 for manufacturer and Article 16 for distributors as in addition. Keep in mind as well that you need to have an authorized representative in Europe, excluding Switzerland and UK. So that's critical. If you have an authorized reps in these two countries, you need to care to move it to a country which is effectively based in European community. Turkey is now acceptable because they have made progress on this side. So if your authorized reps is based in Turkey, this is still acceptable. What is new as well with this regulation is UDI, introduction of UDI, and the European Medical Device Data Bank called Eudamed, which is implicating as well that each manufacturer is having a single registration numbers. That's the case as well for authorized reps and for importers. So that's really important that you get this done. We can start the process without this number, but keep in mind that it will be a rush when the Eudamed will be fully functional. So as soon as you can start the process, please do it, because don't wait the last minute, because the system will probably take some time to deliver the same level of information. So if you can start the process as soon as possible and as soon as each module of Eudamed is becoming available, that will make your life a bit easier. Keep in mind as well that Eudamed has been set up to give some transparency, not only to doctors, but as well to patients. So it means for some device, you will have to publish some data on your device, especially for class 3 device. You may have to publish safety and security and performance summary of your device. And this will be available to public through Eudamed when Eudamed will be functional. So all of that need to be prepared in advance. You need to anticipate, because of course, if you have one device, it's easy to register one device in Eudamed. But if you are manufacturing more than 5,000 of reference of device, it will take you longer, and you need to think about an automatic system to do it and to maintain the data as well. So that's really important to have this level of anticipation to be sure that you will be on time and meet the regulation timeline which are associated with Eudamed and UDIs. From our side, as a notified body, we have as well some duty with Eudamed, so we will need to register each delivered certificate, maintenance of this certificate, withdrawal, refusal of certificate in the database. And we will need as well to review some of the information that you as a manufacturer will submit through this database, including PSUR, but as well SSCPs on a regular basis. So keep in mind to prepare all of that, anticipate as much as possible, take as much information as possible on Eudamed. The Commission has developed guidance, user manual as well for this database. So, and they are all available on European Commission website. Regarding post-market surveillance, I think it's important, and I try to represent more or less what will be the main change if you are looking at now pre-market activities in terms of development of your device. The effort will be more or less 75 to 80% on pre-market activity, and then 20% on post-market. Under MDD, we have similar data for FDA in the US, so that's a similar approach. Under MDR, based on the requirements which are known from now on, you will have to provide probably something more like 40% of the effort as a pre-market and 60% as a post-market. So that's really crucial that you plan this activity as well, because you can't release a product on the market and then turn it back and say, it will live its life. This is not anymore the expectation. You need to be sure that your market is still safe, performing, and compared to any device or any medical treatment, it will remain as safe and performing as when it has been launched. So that means you need to do a real effort on following your device and following the use of your device on the market. And this will request a lot more energy as before under MDD for the MDR conformity. So just a small question to all of you in terms of what will be the biggest impact of the MDR and what will be the biggest part of your, let's say, development and operational activities with MDR. Do you think it will be the design of your device? It will be the clinical data? Will be the labeling? Will be the post-market surveillance? I'll give you, let's say, 30 seconds to answer, and then we have a look together at all the submitted answers. So we reach 1/3 of the answer. So let's wait a few seconds more. Let's see, half of the answers by the attendee. Okay, so I think we move on. There is effectively there no right or wrong answers. The important for you is effectively to consider each of these steps. So as you can see on the screen, most of you are considering that effectively the most impacted activity will be clinical data. And another third will considering this as post-market surveillance. So I think you are all right. In pre-market information, clinical data will be a focus for sure for all your team to be sure that you will demonstrate, again, safety and performance. But this clinical data will be as well a big element in terms of post-market surveillance. And as I just show you this diagram on post-market surveillance, clearly the combination of clinical data and post-market surveillance will be where your team need to focus, and focus in pre-market, but as well in post-markets of the device. So that's really important to have teams who will effectively work before marketing of the device, and some team as well who will continue to follow the same device after it. So all this effort will need to be placed on this mainly two topics for sure. Of course, the design will be impacted because you have probably seen that the GSPR list is quite longer than the essential requirement. And as well, there is some huge change in the labeling that will impact as well, let's say more or less your operation and your warehousing activities. So that's really important that you consider the impact of the MDR at each level of your information and of your company, and each operation may be impacted as well. So just a quick overview of the MDR for us in HDS. We get the application done, like every notified body, in November 2017. We get our first MDR joint assessment in Belgium in July 2017. We get designation in 2020 December, and we start the assessment in February 2022. And we have now done I think more than 10 stage 1 for the customer, and more or less the same amount for technical documentation assessment. So we are very at the beginning of moving to the MDR. And we hope we will be able to serve all the customer on time, because some of the certificate validity are very short, but we are making all the effort and prioritizing our work according to validity of our customer, validity of certificate of our customer. In terms of scope, we have kept exactly the same scope as before under MDD, including in addition the class 1 reusable device anyway, and the Annex 16 device, which cannot be assessed for the moment because we still need to wait for the common specification, which has been drafted by the Commission, but not released yet. So despite this is in our scope, we can't serve customers which are having device only with aesthetics or, let's say, non-medical purpose right now, because we need to wait for this common specification to be released by the Commission. All the products in red right now are out of our scope, but active implantable device has always been out of our designation scope. As well, device containing human origin or derivative product from human blood or human cell are out of our scope. Breast implant are out of our scope. All devices which are producing ionizing radiation are out of our scope. Earth valve as well out of our scope. And medical device non-active for ingestion are as well out of our scope. And we are now working to integrate, probably in 2 years from now, or at least 18 months, IVDR certification. So just a quick reminder as well about transition timeline. As said, the regulation has been delivered and released in 2017, authorizing notified body to apply for designation only in November 2019. And the process was quite long to get designated, and so reducing the transition period for notified body, but as well for all manufacturers. So what is important is that from now, May 2021, MDR is mandatory. That means we can't deliver any new certification under MDD, and our QMS must comply with MDR requirements. That's why in the MDD surveillance audit, we need to check some specific parts which are associated with MDR, and it's not because you will become MDR or you want to become MDR, but it's just because of the MDR transition modality. That means we need to be sure that the vigilance timeline, by example, has been reduced as per MDR requirements. And all devices in MDR scope must be CE marked, including the one entering into the scope. We can't do any change on valid and existing MDD certificate, only small correction like typo. We can, of course, suspend certificate. We can, of course, withdraw certificate under MDD, but we can't correct scope, by example. We can't add any device on the scope, despite we are continuing surveillance activity under MDD. By May 2024, that will be the end of MDD validity. That means at this time, no MDD certificate will be valid anymore, with a year extension for devices which are already in the supply chain. But that means that product has been sent out from the company at this time, 26th of May 2024, and they are still, let's say, in the warehouse of your distributor or in the warehouse of an hospital, and so that means they can still be used till May 2025. But that's the only condition. And as well, in May 2024, your QMS must comply with all MDR requirements. All devices in MDR, all your device must be CE marked according to MDR requirement, and no more activity will be conducted under MDD. So it seems to be far away, but it's already tomorrow. Oops. Okay. Again, a small question for all of you. I think you already know the answers, but do you think that the postponement of MDR is to your advantage? Yes, no, or I don't know. Again, I'll let you a few seconds to answer, potentially 30, 45 seconds, and then we move on. Okay, we reached 60% of attendee answering, so I move on. So you think it was at your advantage? Believe me, that's not the case. It's far from being at your advantage because the transition timeline has been reduced. Because so far, it's not planned to extend the end of MDD certificate at the end after 2024. That means that all the certificates who were supposed to be transferred in between 2020 and 2024 will now need to be transferred in between 2021 and 2024. So that's being much more pressure on resources in your company to be able to meet your timeline. That's been the end of validity of your certificate, but as well on the notified body resource, because having the same amount of certificate to be managed in 3 years, instead of 4 years. Even if we all recruiting like we can and like hell to be able to answer all the need of customer and potential manufacturer, it will be impossible to serve everyone, because we have all observed as well that because of this extension, and because we all want to give all of our manufacturers most of their validity of the certificate, more than 50% of the actual MDD certificates which are on the market are expiring in between end of 2023 and 2024. So if your certificates are part of that, please anticipate the transition, because at this time, notified body will be submerged by the workload associated to the transition. So that's really important to consider this point as well when you are working on moving to MDR. So in terms of transition, hopefully you have already started, but I think you have done a good gap analysis on your QMS, but as well on your technical file for all the class of device, that you have checked the class of your device to be sure that it has not been up-classified. This is really important because the requirement will be a bit different, especially in terms of clinical information. You need as well to assess the impact of the upgrading you have to do on your QMS, on your technical file, in terms of structure, organization, cost, revenue. We are strongly recommending you as well to look at your product portfolio, especially to be sure that the products who were out of the MDR scope until now, like class 1 reusable, have now a full technical documentation. Same approach for class 16, Annex 16 device, sorry, but as well custom-made device. You need to have a full technical documentation available for competent authority, and you need to have a QMS dedicated for supporting development of such device that will be audited by a notified body. So if some of your products are already old and you don't live over them, you need to think as well if it's important to keep them with a CMR or not, because the time you will need to invest in updating the file, in maintaining this file for MDR, may not be a good investment. So that's really important that even from an economical point of view, you are assessing the impact of the MDR transition on your product portfolio. So of course, we strongly recommend you to plan all this change implementation and set up the relevant team and budget. So what is important to consider is, of course, the end of your MDD CE certificate validity, but as well keep in mind that even if your MDD certificate is expiring in May 2024, if you can anticipate as much as possible because of the workload who will arrive at this time on notified body, but as well on all the elements that may induce a longer certification process. This is a new regulation for us as well as for you. Get more non-conformity in the technical documentation assessment, but as well in your audit. So it will take you more time to solve and clear that up. So anticipate as much as possible in order to avoid to be in this last period of time of your CE certificate and put at risk your market authorization in Europe. As well, you need to decide if you want to keep MDD in parallel of your MDR certificate till the end of his MDD certificate validity. You need to be sure that you have identified all the data which are missing in your actual technical documentation under MDD. Update your QMS. Think about your IT system as well in terms of what you need for UDI, basic UDI, UDI PI, Eudamed, Eudamed maintenance. You need to inform your partner as well, probably to rework some of your contractual agreement to comply with MDR, with your authorized reps, with your contractors, suppliers, and distributors. Train your people. You can't come to us and say, I am ready, but I plan to train my people in 2 weeks from now or in 2 months. You need to train your people before doing the implementation of the project. You need to do an internal audit to be sure as well that you have implemented all the requirements of the regulation, and have this reviewed during a management review in terms of cost, impact, risk, resource, change program, and full implementation. What you need to do with your notified body is, of course, contacting us if we are your notified body as soon as possible. When you think you are ready, and considering when your certificate is expiring, gather all the information into the transition plan that is available on our website. The link is included in the presentation, so you can access it directly when we will share this presentation with you. And that's this document there. So what is important for us is to know that which product from your portfolio is you are moving from MDD to MDR, when you need them to move, if you want to include new device, if you want to withdraw old device, all of that will be gathered into this transition plan. And the objective is to try to fit as much as possible with your need according to the resource we have to be sure that you will get the new MDR certificate in advance of the end of the validity of your actual MDD certificate. Last question for you. How much do you think your MDR certification will take? 3 months, 18 months, 54 months? Again, I'll let you 30 seconds to answer, 45 seconds, and we have a look at the feedback provided. So we reached as well 60% of attendee answering. So I move to the answers now. So for you, the vast majority of you think it will be 18 months, which is effectively the average information that are shared at notified body discussion level. I can't tell you SGS will be performing better or worse because so far we did not deliver any new certificate under MDR. I'm expecting this effectively to be around 18 months for high risk of device like 2B, 3 device. For 2A device, we may think about 12 months. But anyway, 3 months is totally unrealistic. For the few contract for the contract we have moved now from MDR, it's already taken us 3 months to find to emit the right proposal with the right level of detail which is expected. So if your certificate is expiring in 3 months, you are already in trouble because this is not feasible. Simply not. And 44 months, it seems that it was one of the longest certification timeline for a class 3 device, at least at the level as well of Team NB, where we are discussing notified bodies activities. So this may happen, hopefully will not be the majority, but keep in mind this 18 months, because this is one of the most important information you need to consider to anticipate your transition. So what you need to do if you are an SGS customer, as said, complete the transition plan, contact your local office, start discussing your transition plan with your dedicated project leader, set up your own planning, and when you are ready, share it with us in order that we can plan contractual discussion, but as well stage 1 audit, stage 2 technical documentation, knowing that we are planning technical documentation only after we have done the stage 1 and approve the stage 1, because the stage 1 is, let's say, the application review decision for us. So that's really important that we do this stage 1 on site with you in order to be sure that you are ready to move and that you will not have such an amount of non-conformity at stage 2 that you will lose too much of energy to close that in the right time and delay. So Be ready for this stage 1 because it will not be a gap analysis. You will have lots of work to do after that to be sure that you will be ready for stage 2. So I said, start as soon as possible, anticipate as much as possible, plan, consider, consolidate data, inform us. If you will have a delay for one technical documentation, then let's tell us, because based on the sampling and based on the amount of data and technical file we will have to review for you, we can fix that the last set of data or last technical documentation group that we will need to sample and that you will have to prepare, we can plan it maybe a bit later, but start the other one as soon as possible, which is giving you as well some more time to close all open non-conformity on the first file. So share information with us as soon as possible, as much as possible, in order that we can consider your time constraint as soon as possible as well. But keep in mind as well that our team are working with priority according to customer end of certificate validity, and unfortunately a limited resource as well, despite we have doubled our capacity in the last months. So I'm repeating myself a little bit, but that's really important to consider your portfolio planning, when you will be ready, scope, transition plan, supplier, application, again, MDR. Be ready, have an application. That means you need to have all the associated elements which are defined in the Annex 9, Section 2. You need to get that. That means you need to get a documented strategy for compliance. You need to get documented strategy for improvement. All of that need to be in your quality management system, or it's not in, if it's not in the quality management system, need to be in a documented way anyway. We will assign you a project manager to be sure that your transition plan will be followed correctly, that he will be able to answer you at any time. Where is your file? Where is your application process ongoing? When you will need to send technical documentation. We will as well work and share the technical documentation sampling plan with you. If you have any class 3, when they are ready, when we can start the assessment. And we need as well to set up new contracts with you. So take into consideration that if your legal requirement, if your legal department, want to have a look at every single contract, this will not be done in two days. So they will need to look at our contract, and if they come back with questions, our legal department will need to look at that as well. So regulatory and legal associate all together, this means times. So don't consider you will sign your contract in 2 days. This is not, this I've never seen so far. So take all of that into consideration to anticipate as much as possible your application and strategy review. Try to fix everything before we came and before we get out, we get your technical documentation. Take as well the worst scenario into consideration. If there is a breakdown of your CE market authorization, what's happened to your company? Do you have any possibility to send product out into your distribution channel or supply chain if you have this risk? So please consider all feasible legal elements to protect your company and assure your business continuity. That's really important because, as said, we can't guarantee we will be able to deliver your MDR serial certificate in 3 months. This is not possible. We can't do it. So I'm a bit late. I'm speaking a bit too much. I've lost 5 minutes. But anyway, I will try to answer a few of your questions during the 10 remaining minutes. You can address any of your questions to the SGS global address and contact our teams in any local office as usual, as the main contact you have in MDD. You can find a transition plan as well on our website, where you will find as well product information questionnaires, checklists for your technical documentation. All of that is available on our website. But you can find as well on our website all the technical training regarding MDR which are available, including your QMS transition from MDD to MDR, but as well technical documentation transition or setting a full technical documentation from MDR, and as well internal audit for MDR. So all of that is available virtually on the physical class, so you can always contact your local office to get this support from us. So let's have a look at the questions. So of course we will effectively have the training, the webinar slide after this webinar, so we will send it to you. The first question, what about process equipment of production of pharmaceutical products? Are they subject to MDR? As far as I know, and except for some specific product, I may imagine, but process equipment which are making production of pharmaceutical product are not entering into the definition of a medical device. So for me, they are not subject to MDR. Next question. Yeah, presentation will be sent. And is there a similar European certification compared to US USB class testing, gasket material? There we are not speaking about testing. We are speaking about certification to a regulation. So it's not a standard of tests. This will not be associated to something like an in-metro or any electrical compatibility testing. So this is fully different. I hope I understand well this question because I'm not sure. What are SGS doing to support manufacturers who are caught in short timeline due to the lateness of designation under MDR of SGS? What we can do so far, unfortunately, we have limited tools to support you. We are asking our competent authority to get the authorization to extend the MDD certificate if we start the MDR audit. So far, we have no feedback, no authorization, unfortunately. So we are fighting at the level of our Belgium competent authority, but as well as part of the TBNB and working with European Commission to get this extension, because this is really going too quick. And it's not only because the SGS has been designated late, that's effectively placing you as some SGS customer in difficult situation, but even some of the customer from the earliest designated notified body are now in the same trouble because of COVID and because it was not possible to do remote audit under MDR. All this system has been delayed, and there is a limited amount of MDR certificate which has been delivered so far. So it's not only because of SGS late designation, but there is a high pressure on Commission and competent authority to find a solution outside of the one which are the Article 54 associated with asking each competent authority authorization to place on their market. But we try to find a solution, but unfortunately, so far, each time we get the feedback from the Commission or competent authority, they state that if they give this extension to manufacturers which are not yet having moved to MDR, this will be a discrimination in terms of commercial discrimination compared to the one who has done the job to move to MDR and who get an MDR certificate. So we try to push at all the level we can in terms of authority, but unfortunately for the moment we have no solution. We all know that lots of medtech associations are pushing in the same way. So I strongly recommend you as manufacturer, if you are part of any medtech association, to push as well this association to lobby on the commission to authorize this type of practice, because otherwise, as a notified body, we will be blocked and we will not be able to support you, unfortunately. And that's our big regrets, but we are not authorized to do so far. So next question. Oh my God, this one is long. Is medical device product packaging testing? So that's a very specific technical question there. Nothing is mandatory. Everything needs to be done to effectively demonstrate compliance with general safety and performance requirement, demonstrate that you have enough management of your risk associated to your device. So I may imagine if your device is packaged in a way that you need to be protect or at least assure sterility, it will be difficult not to validate the transport or the reliability of your testing to demonstrate compliance with MDR requirements. So for sure, you will need to get it if it's part of your device and it helps you to demonstrate compliance with GSPR and management of your risk. But the standard you choose is up to you. ASTM is a US standard. There is someone in Europe that can be used as well. So the choice of standards is really up to you and to what you need to demonstrate. Can a predecessor medical device considered as an equivalent device for demonstrating equivalency of a Class 2A medical device? Of course, you can use your own device as equivalent device. You need to demonstrate and document full equivalence for a Class 2A and even for a Class 2B, because if it's your own device, you have a contract with yourself, so that's possible, and you can demonstrate that. But don't forget to demonstrate the full equivalence as per MedDev, which is MedDev 2 about the clinical equivalence. So you need to demonstrate biological performance, intended purpose equivalence to be sure that all the two devices are effectively equivalent. Who assigned the UDI? This is given by 3 companies, which are defined in the Commission Implementing Act. So they are, can't remember their name right now, but I can provide this information later on. Point on labeling, I have just a labeling word. I have no question. So it would be difficult to answer. If manufacturer had MDD certificate and planning to pass an audit in order to get MDR certificate, at which moment manufacturer should register the medical device in Eudamed, which will be indicated as MDR device? The important is to do the registration in Eudamed before we deliver the certificate. But it can be 2 weeks before, 3 months before, or 2 days before, because the important is that when we will deliver the certificate under MDR, we can do the link with your device. So that's the only timeline you have. If we use SGS for MDR, then we do have to move our ISO 13485 to SGS also. This is not an obligation. In terms of, let's say, economical approach, this is more relevant because if you have a different provider of ISO, it will come to do the ISO, will come to do the MDR, probably on the same amount of days, a bit less on the ISO 13485. When we do ISO 13485 combined with MDR, we are just extending MDR time from 1 day. So it's just from an efficiency point of view in terms of audit time and in terms of costs that it makes sense, but this is not an obligation. Can SGS provide an application form or checklist to current MDR, to current customer in preparation for MDR assessment? As said, all of that is on our website. You have effectively the application form, you have the checklist for technical documentation, you have even a readiness checklist, I think. So all of that is available on our website. I can share the website address, but you get it here as well, so that's fine. Okay, last question, because we will be over time. How should the part number be classified per MDR? Does this part include all subcomponents of a medical device, some of which are manufactured by the same legal manufacturer? How would the part number be classified per MDR? There, I must admit, the question is a bit difficult because normally the components are not classified. What is classified is a medical device, potentially is accessories, but accessories may be classified under the same classification as a medical device or on its own. But there I don't understand why the components are entering into the consideration, because components are not classified. That's only the medical device itself which is classified. Oh my God. So I will not cover all the questions, even if I'm continuing right now. So I will provide an answers later to my colleagues so they can share that with you. That's not an issue. I'm now thanking you for being present and listening to me. I hope it will be helpful for you as an information. And I wish you a good rest of the day. If it's a long or short day, it's up to you. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon or good evening. Bye-bye.